Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services
at 800-600-1645. That's 800-600-1645. 800-600-1645.
The Blaze Radio Network. On demand.
Love. Courage. Truth. Glamour.
I promise.
Casualty shooting just hours ago. This happened overnight around and near the Mandalay Bay Hotel. According to the Clark County Sheriff, more than 356 people have been injured, transported to Las Vegas area hospitals, including trauma centers, and more than 50 confirmed dead. Now making this the most deadly shooting in American history. This was at the close of a 3-day music festival, the Route 91 Harvest Festival. Jason Aldean was performing when the gunfire broke out. He and his team confirmed safe. We have identified a suspect who is dead, but I want to play some of the sounds of how most people became aware that there was a shooting at all. In the middle of the concert, which was across the street diagonally from the Mandalay Bay Hotel, people were just enjoying it as Jason Aldean was singing, and you can hear the gunshots from across the street diagonally. They don't even know what's going on. They're not even sure what's happened until the concert comes to a stop. Listen to their confusion as they start saying, wait a minute, is that gunshots? Remember, it's a little bit far away. It's nighttime. Likely they've been partying at the concert. Once they realize it, while he's theoretically reloading or before he begins to shoot again, they start to get down, and then it becomes clear, and then all hell breaks loose. Here's how it began. No. Do we have the Jason Aldean music where he starts? Here's the confusion before he begins to shoot again.
Get down.
Here's what we know so far. The suspect has been identified as 64-year-old Stephen Paddock. He had a room at the Mandalay Bay Hotel on the 32nd floor and began shooting around midnight last night. He fired hundreds of rounds before people even knew where it was coming from. People that were in rooms several floors below said it sounded like a jackhammer as he let loose with his automatic weapon. Eventually, police figured out what room he was in. They stormed the room. He shot himself before police could shoot him. He is 64-year-old again, Stephen Paddock, lives in a local retirement community in the Las Vegas area. Police believe for a while that maybe there were other shooters in Las Vegas or even in the area. That has now been dispelled. For the longest time, they were searching for a female companion of Stephen Paddock's. She has been taken into custody for questioning. They have also tracked down 2 vehicles that were seen in the area that they were concerned about as well. More details of that will likely come out over the next couple of hours or so. I'm Doc Thompson, pinch hitting for Glenn Beck today. He's on vacation this week. Joining me also, Chris Cruz from the Morning Blaze, and our buddy Cal, who's spinning the dials radio style, also part of the Morning Blaze crew on the Blaze Radio Network. We're on the air before Glenn every day on the Blaze Radio Network, theblaze.com/radio, where you can find out more about us. As soon as I got up early this morning before the program, and we're on 6 to 9, so I get up about 3 o'clock, the information was pouring in. At first, it was just 2 people reported dead. And that seemed pretty low given the circumstances. And then within minutes, they said, no, 20. Now it's up to 50 and likely will climb higher. The strip is still completely closed off. As sun begins to come up over the Las Vegas Strip, they'll likely get more information. In the darkness, it's hard to, get all the little details of who was shot and where. But we do know Las Vegas McCarran Airport is now reopened. For a while, they had stopped flights. And they're going to try to piece everything together. We know there were some police officers at the concert from Bakersfield, California. One of them was shot. His condition is unknown to me at this point. We'll get that information. If you want to join the program, 727-BECK, 888-727-BECK, 888-727-BECK. You can also follow me on Twitter at Doc Thompson Show, and we'll get some of your tweets coming up. It's at Doc Thompson Show. If you want to use the hashtag What I Learned Today, we use that. If you want to tweet at my buddy Chris Cruz, it's at Real Chris Cruz.
One of the facts actually we just got, Kyle just told me over the ear, that they found that the shooter shot himself before the police officer got to him.
Which is new information.
Yes.
We hadn't had that. We knew that they had stormed the room, and we thought police had shot him, but he shot himself. What makes somebody do something like this? That's the question. Why was something like this possible in this man's head? Obviously, if you can do something like this, there is some sort of mental instability. I don't know how you could do something like this without being mentally unstable.
Well, isn't that like the question of, like, $1 million question? Why do people just snap and grab a gun and just start shooting down little kids, right this? You got also the same one that happened in, Orlando, and I was over there.
The Pulse nightclub shooting.
So you can't figure out what it is, but at the same time, this incidents like this should unite us, that, it doesn't matter where we are or who do we vote for or what we believe in, that we're Americans, we're humans, and we just start coming together. Even, we just saw it earlier today. A hashtag is trending, gun control now. Not even, the bodies are not even counted up yet. We don't even know what the grand total is.
The bodies aren't even cold. And they start with politicizing the issue. I understand the natural reaction is to try to find somebody or something to blame. Well, we know we can blame Stephen Paddock, but beyond that, people, like I said, how are you able to do something like this? People want to find something to blame. I get it. That's natural. But if you are going to a political issue this quickly, you are wrong. I was planning already on this program this morning to talk about priorities and perspective, because I think that's important. Over the weekend, the big story prior to this was the NFL players kneeling down. Still, that crazy situation, the divide between the people that said, hey, maybe you shouldn't be protesting during the national anthem. Some people want to show respect, and other people saying, hey, there's a big issue here we want to discuss. That was the story. How shallow does that seem now? How simple, how small, how ridiculous does some players kneeling during the national anthem seem in the midst of 50-plus people dead, hundreds still hospitalized, some of them likely to succumb to their wounds, while simply out at a concert in Las Vegas, just enjoying an open-air concert on a nice October now, October night in Las Vegas. How small and petty does the NFL story seem? It has to be about priorities and perspective. And I was planning on discussing that anyways, given the NFL story. And was planning on saying, hey, this is the big story. Everyone's talking about it. It's ridiculous. And they're saying they're doing this because people are being shot by police officers. But when you look at the numbers, it is so small by comparison to what they would have you believe. The number of people shot by police officers and killed, and certainly those with any type of racial makeup, it's very, very small by the number of other crimes, by people who die in war or other problems we face. We have to start prioritizing, and we have to put it into perspective. Sure, you're an NFL player, and you're pissed off because you believe, wrongly, of course, you're misguided, misdirected, misinformed. You wrongly believe that police are indiscriminately killing people because of their race. This is what you believe. So you take a knee during the national anthem with little regard for your fellow man and the passions they feel when the national anthem is played, knowing you could protest somewhere else. But what about the people in Las Vegas? Now, obviously they hadn't been shot during the games yesterday because it just happened a few hours ago. But other people are killed. Other people are systematically tortured around the world. We've got millions of people who've died at the hands of various regimes in North Korea. People are systematically tortured and killed all over the Middle East. People are sex trafficked, human trafficked here, even in America. People starve. We face these really serious problems all the time. And you jackass NFL players and NBA players take a knee because that's your priority? What say you this morning? What say you in light of Las Vegas? Is there any NFL player or NBA player going, wait a minute, next week I'm out now? I realized after the shooting in Las Vegas that, maybe there's more priorities in America. Within moments of this tragedy, people like Piers Morgan began politicizing it and making it a gun issue. Piers Morgan tweeting out all kinds of gun statistics in Nevada and America, even though he's not an American. How about cleaning up your own dirtbag country first, Piers? How about that? Is every problem solved in England? Is Britain taking care of every problem, every homeless, every stabbing, every murder, every crime? Then maybe worry about your own country. The fact that somebody was stupid enough to hire you to cover media in America does not make you an American or an expert. Go away. And stop politicizing our tragedies for your own political and personal gain. Stop it. Gun control now is a hashtag. I get that it's natural for you to want to try to come up with somebody or something to blame. Stop making it a political issue. You want solutions? We'll get to solutions this morning on the program. We'll get to your calls. But I don't want this about political issues this morning. I'm not doing that. Piers Morgan and others are wrong. Don't be them. You've got speculation, comments, a message of support for people, the victims, the family members in Vegas. You want to comment on the NFL or others? Fine, we'll get to that. But don't politicize the tragedy. You want to discuss this later on and get to the bottom of it? You want to talk about gun control tomorrow, later on tonight? Fine. How about we wait till the family members are notified? You got people waking up that have no idea that this happened, yet they have relatives that were at that concert. They haven't even been notified yet. How about we wait till then? This is Doc Thompson pinch hitting for Glenn Beck on the Glenn Beck program.
Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck.
Doc Thompson, Chris Cruz, and Cal from the Morning Blaze pinch hitting for Glenn Beck today. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry it couldn't be under happier circumstances, but unfortunately the most deadly shooting in American history happened just hours ago in Las Vegas. Quick update, the number dead now at 50, and the number injured taken to local Las Vegas hospitals, including trauma centers, now at 406 and counting. The gunman was on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel, firing across an intersection diagonally. Now, as he hung outside the window, he could fire from a 180-degree distance. So he could go from, left side to right side and spray all the way across, which he did. He fired down on the crowd below, people on the street, cars. But there was thousands of people diagonally across the intersection at this music concert.
40,000 plus
I think that's what they said.
It was what they said. It's just fascinating. And then the amount of people that weren't killed instantly is a miracle as well. Because if you hear the audio, it's about a minute of just rapid fire. You don't even hear a break. And also we found out that he had about 8 weapons on his hotel bed as well. So what was his long-term plan on this?
I don't know. He managed to get off probably thousands of rounds. We know he fired for up to 15 minutes before they got into the hotel room. I mean, that's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And the Mandalay Bay Hotel is at the south end of the Strip. McCarran Airport is across the street and beyond some other buildings. It's not directly across the street. There's some other things across the street, but it's very close. At the north end of the Strip, you have toward downtown. You get toward downtown. So that's the south end. Likely, if it hadn't been for the concert and those thousands, maybe 40,000 across, the damage would have been less significant. I'm going to get some calls coming up. 888-727-BECK. Sean in Massachusetts, thanks for joining us. You're on the Glenn Beck program. How are you?
Morning, Doug. Thanks for having me on. You pretty much said everything I wanted to say earlier, the intro to your show. So I live in central Massachusetts, and I'm completely surrounded by people that, it's first thing in the morning over here, and already people are putting the political speculation on the shooting, and it's sickening. Whether the guy was doing it because he was a Trump supporter or some right-wing conspiracy theorist, whatever, I'm going to this open mic tonight that my friend runs, and it's Slam Poets. If you know anything about Slam Poets and the social justice crowd, and I know that I'm anticipating that there's going to be a lot of people talking about gun control, and
it'll be 90% that. It'll be almost all that.
Well, they have a no hate speech policy, and
okay,
which I'm sure that doesn't surprise you, but that would not be hate speech because they're talking against things that people on the right believe in, so it wouldn't be covered there. Well, I feel like that's when there's people that like as you said, they don't even know that they haven't even heard the news yet. That might have known someone or were close to somebody that was at this concert, and I feel like that's more damaging than the so-called hate speech.
Absolutely,
I've always maintained this belief that people who are racist or sexist, all these xenophobias that they're all these labels they're throwing out there. That those people, it's socially frowned upon to think that way. If you're a racist, you're not going to make many friends. I just don't understand why exacerbate what is essentially a non-issue. That's why Morgan Freeman always said the best way to fight racism is to just stop talking about it.
Well, that's the key, Sean. And by the way, thank you so much for the call. I really appreciate you joining us today in Massachusetts. That's the key is knowing what it means to politicize an issue. So what is politicizing an issue? How do you know if it's being politicized? We'll get some more of your calls coming up. 888-727-BECK, 888-727-BECK, and we'll lay out how you know if it's being politicized.
Glenn Beck.
If your credit card bills have gotten out of hand, call Consolidated Credit now. They can consolidate your debts, reduce your interest rates, and get you out of debt fast. Call Consolidated Credit now. 800-440-1636. 800-440-1636. That's 800-440-1636. Consolidated Credit Counseling Services Incorporated. 5701 West Sunrise Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 33313. Not a loan company. Licensed by the New York Department of Financial Services and by the Vermont Department of Financial Regulation. Maryland DM 19. Oregon DM 80031. Licensed by Virginia State Corporation Commission DC 32.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
May sound simple, but how do you know if something is being politicized? A tragedy, that is. How do you know? I mean, you may say, well, it's pretty obvious or whatever. No, I don't think it is. Is it okay to discuss a tragedy after the tragedy? A day, a week, a month later, a year later? Of course. You can discuss it.
Yeah.
Can you discuss it and assign some blame when there is blame? Mistakes. Let's say there were failures that led to it.
Like you said, like maybe there was a note left by the police officers and they forgot to follow up, some kind of like
whatever.
that.
Yeah, you can discuss those things.
That, yeah.
And in an effort to assign blame, not just for vengeance, but to try to stop failures in the future. Yeah. Of course you can do that. I think you know when it's being politicized if the criticisms happen, like they have already this morning, before we know all of the details. We don't know all of the details about the shooting in Las Vegas. We know very few. The numbers keep changing. The numbers dead and injured. The way this rolled out. What room he was in. That stuff is changing constantly. So that's one way you know. Number two, if blame is being assigned without all of the facts being displayed. Maybe a week from now, somebody points to this tragedy and blames whoever. I don't care if they blame somebody on the left, the right, the president, past presidents. It doesn't matter. If they're doing it without telling you all of the facts, without full disclosure, only letting you see a little bit of it, what that's doing is showing you they are crafting a message for you or anybody else who's viewing it, reading it, whatever, that they only want you to know a little bit in order to drive the narrative in a political direction. That's what's been happening with Puerto Rico over the weekend. That's been what's been happening between the mayor of San Juan and the president. We'll get to that coming up later on in the program. But let me share with you what Piers Morgan tweeted out. And again, I'm not being political. I'm just pointing out how ridiculous. This is what politicizing it is. What did Piers tweet out, Chris Cruz?
So he tweeted this about an hour ago. He says, big test for President Trump. The NRA helped him get elected. Now, worst ever U.S. mass shooting has happened in his watch. #Vegas.
So the worst mass shooting has happened on Donald Trump's watch.
Yes.
He's right.
He is right.
On his watch while he was president. He's right. The second now most deadly mass shooting was the Pulse nightclub.
Yes, 49 dead.
Prior to today, it was the most deadly.
Mm-hmm.
Whose watch was that on?
Obama.
Prior to that, the most deadly mass shooting in American history was Sandy Hook.
Yep, the children's at the school.
Right, and whose watch was that on?
President Obama.
Do you see what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's Obama's fault. I'm not saying it's Trump's fault today. I'm saying these numbers always change. New situations, new circumstances. And what would Piers have them do? Gun control is not a solution to this. He simply wants you to believe it is. Before he even knows the facts. There could be significant facts to come out that Piers doesn't know. But he's happy to jump to that political arena.
And then if you go down that rabbit hole of let's blame President Trump, it is his fault. What can you blame him on? Like seriously, what can you blame any president when a mass shooting happens like this?
It's asinine.
It's not like Donald Trump was right there sitting next to the guy, or President Obama was sitting to the other guy saying, hey, are you going to push the trigger? Are you going to push the trigger right now? Hey, do it right now. It's not that. I blame society before I blame any president.
Including Obama?
Yes.
Including others. You know what? I think today I have made a realization about the politicizing of these issues. That needs to be something that we discuss all the time. We need to start calling out the politicizing of tragedy. And I just shared with you some of the ways you know it's being politicized. If they're not sharing all of the facts, if they're discussing and pointing the finger of who's responsible, who's to blame before we know any of the details. All right, I'm going to get some calls coming up. 888-727-BECK, 888-727-BECK. Please follow me on Twitter. It's at Doc Thompson Show. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/Doc Thompson Show. And I'll take some messages from there as well coming up. But first, I want to share with you some more of the sounds. I have an audio clip of the SWAT team being called to the scene as they were trying to track down this shooter in Las Vegas on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel. The first 30 seconds or so is the audio of them trying to track him down, and then the second immediate audio clip is them busting in. He did take his own life. That's the reports we're getting. Here's the audio now.
109 agents coming from upstairs in the Mandalay Bay. Upstairs in Mandalay Bay, halfway up, I see the shots coming from Mandalay Bay. We have multiple casualties, GSWs in the medical tent. Multiple casualties.
Repeat, just be advised, it is automatic fire. Fully automatic fire from an elevated position. Take cover.
Multiple GSWs to the chest, legs, terminal arteries, at the medical tent. At the medical tent, 4A, off of Guile, south of Reno.
Control 020.
020, go ahead.
It's going to sit on the suspect's door. I need everybody in that hallway to be aware of it and get back. We need to pop this and see if we get any type of response from this guy to see if he's in here or if he's actually moved out somewhere else.
Copy. All units on the 32nd floor. SWAT has explosive breach. Everyone in the hallway needs to move back. All units move back.
Breach.
Wow. Chilling. It's funny because I might not look like it, but I was a police officer in the military, and nothing. Even hear them, you can hear them. They're nice and calm. You know, some police officers.
Does it make you tense?
It makes me tense. I'm here. I'm like,
you're gearing up. Okay, getting ready to go. Right?
It's ready. One thing that all of my trainers told me is you can never prepare yourself for that incident. Yes, you could go down drills. You could go down any
There's
scenarios.
Too many variables, too many unknowns.
Because if you think about it right now, they were about to breach this hotel room. What if when they breached this hotel room, there was an explosion on the other side? Now you have a bigger casualties.
What if they were hostages? What if they were anything?
Well, not just that. What if the whole plan was to get the police officers to that side, and there was other people on the other side waiting. Right. So you have to figure this out. And the best, and one of the things I will never forget is at that moment is either you go home or you don't go home. In that split second, you make that decision, and those police officers already made the decisions that they were going to go home at the end of the day, and they would take off those boots, we call in the military. And it's really interesting because it's all tense, but at the same time, mad props to all the SWAT team and all the first responders that responded to this issue. And it's just fascinating that, even today's world where, people are starting hitting on cops who could still look at the good things when it comes to police officers and our first responders.
There were two on-duty officers that were injured. One of them is in stable condition after surgery. The other just has minor injuries. So two of them were injured. And as I said, there was some officers from the Bakersfield, California. That's about 4 or 5 hours away through the desert that were just at the concert. And they ended up, at least one of them ended up being shot. So, all right, let me get some calls coming up. 888-727-BECK. Let's go to Pennsylvania. George, welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Thank you for holding.
Hey, good morning. What I want to say about this is I think politicians need to understand that when they try to make political hay out of a disaster and a tragedy like this, every word that they utter is dripping and dipped in the blood of those who have fallen out there, and it has absolutely no place in our discourse today. And people like Chuck Schumer, who, as far as I'm concerned, is a dead ringer for Snidely Whiplash, without the mustache, needs to stop. Nancy Pelosi needs to stop. And they're not helping. And when they try to take advantage of something like this for their own benefit, and the perceived benefit of their party, those are blood words, and it needs to stop now.
I agree, George. And you know what? I will even give some of them the benefit of the doubt. Clearly, some of them are trying to be political with this. It's personal gain and party gain for them. But there may be some that are so emotional, and they just go to this. In their mind, guns are the problem, or, whatever political issue is out there at the time there's a tragedy. they may really believe that's the problem, and they're so overcome with emotion they just lash out. I get that happens at times. That's fine. But when it's consistent from some of these people, then you realize it is planned, that they're doing it in a calculated fashion. George, thanks so much for the call. Let's go to New York now. Dave, you're on the Glenn Beck program. Thanks for holding. Hey, Dave, how are you?
I'm good. I guess I'm calling up with some more questions than, I have talking points, I guess.
Okay.
All right, so I woke up this morning to this, as most of the country did, I'm sure. And I'm part of this group on Facebook. I know Facebook isn't the place to get news from, but it's a firearms group, and one of them he works with the Las Vegas Police Department. And first thing I heard this morning was that, it was confirmed that there was one shooter. He posted something this morning, said there's a lot of things he can't disclose, but that there was multiple shooters, one dead, one in custody, possibly two more involved. I was just curious, is that something that's still developing, or has that been set in stone?
You know what?
I don't want to spread misinformation at all.
Yeah, and I'll give you, Dave, what information has been confirmed. I mean, hell, they could have 400 suspects in custody without telling us. I mean, there could be all kinds of stuff. But from what is being reported by the Clark County Sheriff and other local law enforcement in the area, is that there was one sole perpetrator, Stephen Paddock. He is 64 years of age. He was a resident of a local retirement community. There was a woman that he is acquainted with. We don't know if she was around before the shooting, during, but she was not there and at large for a short period of time. They have since taken her into custody for questioning, but even early on, police termed it this way. They said they believe the shooter was the sole aggressor, meaning that even if she is somehow culpable in this, that she was not somebody who pulled the trigger. They also had two vehicles that they were trying to track down because they thought they were suspicious. Remember, in the early moments of this, you start trying to gather any information and evidence you can. They have since located those two vehicles, and they're investigating. I don't know the significance, if one was hers, one was his, or anybody else. But so far from local law enforcement, one perpetrator, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock.
Gotcha. I appreciate it. And I also want to say one thing, too. I haven't seen much so far about the everyone screaming for gun control, which I'm sure is going to be coming any minute now.
It's out there already, yeah.
But, yeah, I'm sure. I'm at work, so I don't pay attention to most of that crap while I'm at work. I just heard you guys on the way in, so I figured I'd call. The thing is, with this guy had fully automatic weapons, gun control isn't going to stop that. You're either going to buy an automatic weapon illegally on the street, or you're going to illegally modify it. They don't give Class 3 permits to anybody. It's not something you can get with just the simple tax stamp. It's not something, especially like where I am in New York, you can't get anything. I mean, it's considered a destructive device. You're not getting...
Dave, the best way... You're right, but the best way, I think, to say that this morning, and thank you so much for the call, the best way to say that this morning is, when I talked about people politicizing things, when they don't know or they don't share all of the information, all of the facts. What you're sharing is fact. Granted, it's one perspective, but it is truly facts that they will not share. All of those things can be discussed later today, tomorrow. Let's make sure the families know what's going on first, have been notified. And by the way, let's get this all taken care of. The sun has just come up in Las Vegas. They're still investigating. The strip is still closed.
One of the things you just said, Donald Trump will address the nation at 10:30 Eastern time, 10:30
Eastern time, and we will try to carry some of that here on the Glenn Beck program. Quick break, and back with more. Doc Thompson in for Glenn on the Glenn Beck program.
Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck.
Doc Thompson, Chris Cruz, and Cal spinning the dials, radio style, in for Glenn Beck today. Thanks so much for joining us. Regularly heard on the Blaze Radio Network. More on us, just go to theblazeradio.com, theblazeradio.com. Let's go back to the phones, 888-727-BECK, 888-727-BECK. Just taking calls on the situation in Las Vegas. Now 50 people dead and 406 injured. John in Indiana, welcome to the program. Hey, John, how are you?
Vegas not happened.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it's kind of a heck of a way to wake up over your coffee and realize that, here's going to be another storm of controversy in the midst of a tragedy. But I think we need to remember that no matter how a person ends up doing something like this, I don't care whether it's the kids at the high school, this guy in the tower, you've got people who are basically angry and on the edge of breaking because of one common factor. We live in a high intensity, very negatively polarized society. This has been the most nervous period in human history. There is so much going on, so much everywhere going on, so much taken in. I think people are just getting overwhelmed, and if you're living on the close of the edge, it's real easy to snap.
You know what, John?
I mean, I
think you're right.
I wanted to go up a tower with a rifle, but weren't for the love of God.
No, John, you're absolutely right. Thank you so much for the call. You're right. We're living in a time where everybody is just so at their wits' end. I don't just mean conservatives, libertarians. I mean, I'm sure liberals are as well. Look at them. I mean, some of them got Trump derangement syndrome, right? I mean, all we know is that we all know something is very, very wrong in America. We have different ideas on how to fix it, but we know what we're doing is not working.
Glenn Beck. Love, courage, truth. Glenn Beck.
It's Doc Thompson in for Glenn Beck. I'm regularly heard on the Blaze Radio Network, theblaze.com, theblazeradio.com. You want to find out more? Follow me on Twitter. It's at Doc Thompson Show. My buddy and cohort from the Morning Blaze, Chris Cruz, joining me, as well as Cal, who's spinning the dials radio style for us as well. Last night, just hours ago, on the Strip in Las Vegas, a gunman on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel fired countless rounds into the crowd below, including a concert across the street. As it stands, 50 people confirmed dead. That number is likely to grow. Over 400 injured. Just to give you the quick update, one suspect killed himself as police broke into his room. 64-year-old Stephen Paddock is his name. A female companion of his, we're not sure of their relationship, was taken into custody. She is being questioned. We don't know if she's actually a suspect, if she was a part of this, if she was complicit in this or not, but I'm sure those details will come out. That's pretty much all we know. We have some sounds of it. We know how awful it was for the people that were running, had no idea where the bullets were coming from. They didn't know which direction to flee to get to safety. It was a bizarre scene. This is now officially the deadliest shooting in American history. It is not the deadliest attack in American history. Obviously, 9/11. After 9/11, there was, of course, the Oklahoma City bombing, which killed around 150 or so. And 30-some kids were killed in an explosion at a school in Bath, Michigan in 1927 when a man blew up the school there. Just to put it all into perspective. Prior to today, the deadliest mass shooting in America was the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. Prior to that, it was Sandy Hook. Our friend John DiDomenico is a Trump supporter and entertainer who lives in Las Vegas. We've had him on this program and our program in the past, and has a little bit of perspective, what with living just, 10, 15 minutes from the Mandalay Bay. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, Doc. How you doing, man?
This is so bad, John. This is horrible.
It's, this is a very small town. I moved here 6 years ago and was very lucky to be part of the entertainment community here. I had multiple friends at the festival, and two women particularly. One is a singer, one's a country singer. I saw that they were there. I was checking Instagram yesterday and Facebook, and they were having a great time and posting photos. And then right before I went to bed, I checked again, and they said they were being shot at.
Wow.
And the one woman, I don't want to give any names for privacy, but the one woman's account, they were shot at. A guy they didn't know covered their bodies. He was shot dead. The woman next to them was grazed in the neck. They're just shattered. They're horrified. This is their hometown. They went there to have a great time, and they were almost killed. So it's just a horrible, horrible situation.
Well, John, let's look at a different perspective there. You're right. This is horrible. And obviously, we never want this to happen, and we certainly don't want it to happen again. But let's look at some of the, albeit small by comparison, but positive stories. The stories of self-sacrifice like that, people pushing each other, pushing others out of the way, sacrificing themselves, covering people, and ended up taking a bullet and dying themselves.
Right. And I just want to read you the line, what she wrote. A man that we did not know laid on top of us and covered Amy's head. He was shot from behind. The lady right next to us was grazed in the neck. So, yeah, there's a lot of heroism. We have amazing first responders here, incredible police, ambulances. I also had, like I said, I had multiple friends there, and it's beyond the fact that it's hard to believe. A lot of people rose to the occasion, were able to kind of be clear, move people out, get people behind the stage, get people to safety. So yeah, there's in these moments, in these tragedies, people really dig down and figure out a way to focus and help others.
John, tell me about this venue. When I lived in Vegas, it was in the early 90s. The Mandalay Bay wasn't even there. It was the Hacienda back in the day. And then that end of the Strip ended up developing quite a bit after I left. Tell me about this outdoor venue. It's diagonally across the street.
Yes. So Mandalay Bay is at the southern end of the Las Vegas Strip. It's one of the things. It's like the really last large hotel. It's an MGM property, and I'm a member of a club there that's actually on the roof. What makes the Mandalay Bay such a great hotel is because it's the farthest end of the Strip. You can look north and have this stunning view. Directly across the street, there's this lot owned by, I'm assuming it's MGM, but where they have like the iHeartRadio concert and, all the different things that come through town. Also, American Ninja is shot there. It's this great kind of huge open space. So when you're there on the ground, you have these amazing views of all the hotels. And it looks, if you're in Mandalay Bay, it looks right down on it.
And it's something, Chris, it's something like 15 acres. That space, it's many acres.
It's huge, and like John said, you could fit. You can fit the iHeartRadio concert. It's a lot of people do different concerts, and actually, I did not know that the American Ninja Warrior was.
That makes sense there now.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like Chris just said. It's just acres and acres, and they build tons of stages, and you can move around, and they have a lot of festivals there for that reason, and also parking and accessibility and all those types of things. And this man obviously knew this was coming to town, and he obviously asked for a room on a high floor, and then did the unthinkable, and has shattered many, many people's lives, killed many people.
We figured this morning, we speculated, and it made a lot of sense that he likely did this to time it when the concert was there, because he's going to have thousands and thousands of people that are a target. Mm-hmm. And that's how it seems this morning. It's interesting, John. We're looking at the pictures coming out of the Mandalay Bay this morning, and there are two windows on the hotel on the same floor that are broken out. But it's interesting because the windows are dozens of those little squares. I don't know, if that represents.
They're full-size windows.
So would one of those squares be a room, or a couple of them would probably be a room?
Probably three of those would be a room.
Okay, so we're seeing one on kind of the point. The Mandalay Bay is kind of it has three prongs. If you're looking at
an
it,
X.
Yeah, it's like it's like that. Is on like kind of one of the points, and then 8 to 10 windows kind of down the side is another broken out window. We don't know why yet. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have no idea about that. And this is, it would seem to me that there was another shooter, and I don't want to.
Yeah, the police have not confirmed that. It could have been him. It could have been somebody else breaking out the window. Could have been anything.
It also seems echo there. It's just terrible. But he was very, very calculating in how he did this and timed it and his angle and all those things.
So, John, I was thinking about it this morning and talking about priorities and how, for some reason, we do not prioritize what's really important. And a lot of us don't in our own lives. It's easy to get pissed off at somebody in front of you in traffic or whatever, and you go, you know what? Right, exactly. At least I wasn't shot up in Las Vegas, right? I mean, that's how it was. But just in the past couple of months, think of the ridiculous stories that has consumed the news cycle that people have been angry about, that when you put it next to this, seems pretty shallow. The most recent, the NFL, people kneeling, people not standing. Right. As passionate as I am about it, it seems pretty shallow. All of the statues being taken down. The ESPN reporter, Robert Lee, who is denied. The Dr. Seuss books that are supposed to be racist over the weekend. A couple of weeks ago, sports talk host Clay Travis saying boobs on CNN caused people to be melting down. I mean, this is ridiculous.
It is, and we love this. We all love this country, and we're smart people. And a lot of us are from a lot of people who are at each other are from a lot of the same places and have the same core values. When stuff like this, you make a great point. When stuff like this happens, those other things seem so trivial and actually would be so easy to come to an agreement on or get around in some way. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's work this out. We love this country. It's an amazing place. We're living in, this wonderful time as far as technology and all the things that are happening. But to see something like this, and then we're like you just said a few days ago, a Dr. Seuss book. It seems really
it's so stupid,
It seems like our lives are so short and so precious, and we're wasting time
screwing around with that stuff.
Things.
See, John, I mean, there's no bringing back the 50 people that have been killed. That's not. No. But you know what? We could still come to some reasonable reasonable understanding about statues, right? I mean, there's nobody dead there, right? Columbus Day being offensive to some people. Okay, we can have that discussion because nobody's dead.
Right. I see. Yeah, we're getting tied up in things that are wasting our lives, actually. So it's time to kind of refocus and get back to the things that are really important, like human life.
Exactly right. That may matter. Okay, John D. Domenico, buddy. Thanks so much for joining us. Okay.
Thank you, guys, and thanks for all your prayers for Las Vegas. And this is a great town, and we're going to come back and this is a place to come and have a great time.
Love the Vegas.
The police are amazing, and the first responders, as I said. So,
all right, John. Thanks, buddy. What I'll do is I'll tweet out a link to John's account as well, so you can find him. He's a good guy.
Okay. Weird breaking news. ISIS has claimed responsibility for Las Vegas shooting.
Come on.
And Cal, I sent you a picture of the news.
Come on.
Are you able to read what I sent you? Is that like your language?
I can translate. Let me try to find it first, though. You send me a picture of...
Yeah, because according to the news, everybody's reporting on this now, they're saying that ISIS has now claimed responsibility, saying that he's been a long supporter of the ISIS, whatever they want to call that. But I sent it to Cal because Cal is our in-house Muslim.
He's right. He's a 64-year-old white guy from a retirement community in Vegas. They're radicalizing them now? They're going after the seniors. ISIS is radicalizing the seniors now.
If that's the case, this is a whole other...
This is a whole new ball game.
That's bizarre.
All right. Now, it could just be that ISIS is like, we'll claim everything.
Yeah.
Because I've often wondered that.
Yeah.
They claimed there was a stabbing. 2 women were stabbed to death in France by another woman, and ISIS took credit for it. I mean, how genius is that if you're ISIS to just claim everything bad?
Yeah,
People think you're everywhere.
Yeah, ISIS is saying the shooter converted to Islam months ago.
Oh, my gosh. Cal, do you have any insight to this?
What, do I know every freak that converts? No.
No, not that.
You're not on the newsletter?
No, I'm sorry.
You don't get a newsletter. Okay.
I thought you guys would get a newsletter. Hey, we got a new one.
We lost one.
I missed the communication
whatever it is.
One,
okay.
right? Jeez.
Okay, I'm just checking. Just wanted to make sure. Quick break, back with more on the Glenn Beck program.
Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck.
This just in, ISIS has now claimed responsibility for Hurricane Maria. Also, Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma.
Do we have any word on Hurricane Jose?
No, they're not responsible. That just went out to the ocean. They're not. That's not. They didn't do any damage.
That was not.
That's not them. Maria. That's theirs. That's right. They do damage.
So should Puerto Rico be going, stand against Islamic terrorism?
Yes, they should. Obviously, those hurricanes are Islamic terrorism. I mean, fundamentalists in ISIS creating those hurricanes.
Are they doing the rain dance too?
I mean, it's
just in. ISIS claims responsibility
for
when you eat too much ice cream, you get brain freeze. That is ISIS. Yes,
that is us, right? You know when it hurts? That's us. ISIS today.
When you walk around the corner and you stub your toe on the coffee table.
Is that also?
That was all us.
That's all the planning. It's taken many years to come up with it.
We are evil geniuses. Thank you.
So, Cal, you have the official translation of that tweet.
Yeah, so this is the source is the AMAC agency. I don't know
how
reputable
that?
It is,
but
we
it's at Doc Thompson Show. I'll tweet it so you can see it. It's in foreign language. What foreign language is that?
Arabic.
Oh, I thought it was Muslim.
Okay.
What is Muslim? The AMAC agency says the execution of the Las Vegas people became the shooter became a Muslim a few months ago. That's all it says.
Oh, it doesn't say anything else other than what I said.
No, the AMAC agency says the shooter became a Muslim a few months ago.
Okay, I mean, that's possible. Which seems more likely? The guy did convert, went through all of this, or ISIS is just claiming responsibility for something because
I think just ISIS is just claiming responsibility because it's hot on the news right now.
I got to tell you, Cal, I hope it's true. I hope he converted.
I mean,
I know you don't. You're hoping, please, I'm tired of this, right?
I am. I mean, it's horrible. I would be shocked.
The only reason I say that is not for the political nature. It would be the ultimate twist in an already bizarre and shocking story. It would
definitely be that. I wouldn't argue that at all.
I mean,
an old 64-year-old
right. I'm not
Las
making
Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not making light of this at all. I'm just saying that would be just bizarrely interesting.
Think of it like this: have they run out of people to recruit? They got into the 60-year-old people.
Hey, no, I guess.
Like, what about me? I'm a little offended
that they haven't tried to recruit you.
Yeah.
I don't know if they go with pudgy Puerto Ricans.
It's better than a 65-year-old.
I don't know. Maybe they have some sort of standard you can't reach.
Highly offended.
I mean, how troubling is that?
That's what I'm saying.
No, you shouldn't be offended. You should try to get your act together. They don't even want you.
Mr. Chris Cruz, we are sorry to inform you have been rejected from the ISIS University.
Wow.
You just do not meet the standards that we are looking for.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty shocking. Pretty interesting, though. All right, get some more calls here. Let's go to Florida. Chris, you're on the Glenn Beck program. Thank you for holding. How are you?
Good. I know it's inevitable that this will be compared to the Pulse nightclub shooting, but these are very, very different situations. In Las Vegas, you had a guy that had an extremely good vantage point and an extremely sheltered position. There's really nothing anybody could have done from that music area to stop him. Whereas with Pulse, you had the shooter actually in the same room, vulnerable to the same extent that everyone else was. The irony here is that the gun control worked against the victims because no one was allowed to carry a gun in the building because it was an alcohol, they served alcohol. It was a bar.
Although, Chris, this is one of those scenarios, and as much as I would still want a gun because you want to protect yourself, it probably wouldn't have done a whole lot of good anyways because he's, barricaded in that room. You'd have to have the average person with a weapon burst into the room and be able to shoot him. And most people do not have that skill level or would do that. So it's different if it's at a concert and he's on the floor, then people will pull out their gun and shoot him. Not that I still wouldn't rather have one. I'm just saying it's not the same scenario. He was kind of barricaded in.
Okay.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate the comment. Thank you so much. An additional tragedy to this is that now people have come up with a new way to inflict pain and suffering and death on people. I have over the years, because I just have a twisted brain like that, thought of all kinds of scenarios where people could do great harm. I think about it whenever I go to church. I'm kneeling and praying. Is somebody going to burst in? We've seen that. And I've thought about this scenario, somebody from a high vantage point from out a Las Vegas window. I've thought about it at concerts before. And I've not spoken a lot about it because I don't want to give anybody ideas that they haven't already come up with. But now that this is out there, does the next knucklehead go, I can do this? I mean, think about it. On some level, and of course the media has to cover this stuff. I'm not chastising that. But some of these kids that have shot up schools because they got the idea from other kids who've shot up schools. Is this going to be a thing now?
Glenn Beck.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-803-6951.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
It's Doc Thompson from the Morning Blaze, pinch hitting for Glenn today. Got some tweets coming in at Doc Thompson Show. Hashtag what I learned today. It's simple at Real Chris Cruz. ISIS requires their American terrorists speak English.
That's very offensive because I'm actually speaking English right now.
That's...
verdict's still out on that.
That's English?
Can you understand me?
Perhaps we just go to another tweet. I am Corbin tweeting hashtag what I learned today. At Real Chris Cruz doesn't qualify for ISIS recruitment because of questionable sexuality.
No.
Hashtag Manny Petty.
No. There's perfectly good mans out there that takes care of their hands and feet like I do. And my beard and my haircut
I don't know about that.
What? You don't get haircuts?
Perhaps we just move along.
Okay.
You can tweet at the program at Doc Thompson Show, at Real Chris Cruz, and at Cal79. That's KAL79. We're from the Morning Blaze. If you want to know more about us, just go to theblazeradio.com. With history as my guide. Oh, by the way, we are going to move along. We'll get back to some of the information on what happened in Las Vegas in a couple of minutes. The president is due to speak soon. Likely some of our affiliates will break away and carry some of that. We're going to monitor it and see if there's anything other than standard jargon. It's still nice to hear from a president, but usually it's pretty standard speak and, the aftermath of a tragedy. If it's worthy, we'll carry some of it in a little while as some of our affiliates tune away and carry some of that and then tune back in. If you miss this next segment, you're going to want to go to iTunes and listen to this program, the Glenn Beck program, because this is a guest you definitely want to hear from. He's one of my favorite guests over the last year that we've had on the Morning Blaze. With history as my guide, I feel comfortable in saying that we're going to cram about 3 interviews worth of interviews into one. Peter Shankman, author of Faster Than Normal, Turbocharge Your Focus, Productivity, and Success with the Secrets of the ADHD Brain. Hey, Peter, how are you?
Good to talk to you today. How are you?
Doing well, sir. Loved having you on our morning program because we spend a lot of time talking about entrepreneurs and ways people can better their life. And we're all looking for some advantage to say, what can I do to make life better for my family? And I think you may have solved some of the problems with your book.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, the problems that I've solved and the book that I wrote basically came from, me having to figure out how to survive with a sort of a different brain, as it were. I've had ADHD all my life, and when I was growing up, it wasn't ADHD. It didn't exist as that. It was sit down, you're disrupting the class disease.
You're a bad kid.
And, oh God, I was terrible. Yeah, and it wasn't intentionally terrible, but my brain was always looking for those chemicals, that dopamine, that serotonin, that adrenaline that normal people make plenty of, and that people with ADHD are constantly hunting for, to sort of get the same level of productivity that regular people have. Once I realized how to do it, my productivity shot through the roof, and now I've started and sold 3 companies. I've written 5 books. I do things pretty fast.
Runner, skydiver, podcaster, Ironman triathlete. You've been added to my list of people I hate because you're too successful. It's not even successful. You should. You're in good company. It's not just successful. It's people that accomplish.
I should have done something.
Not lives. Like, yeah, exactly. And multiple things despite odds. I mean, it's incredible what you've accomplished.
Well, thank you. I mean, the book comes out tomorrow, Faster Than Normal, and I wrote it basically because I started this podcast about 2 years ago interviewing other people with ADHD who, are successful celebrities, CEOs. We've had Tony Robbins, Seth Godin, Cameron Herold, people like that. And what we found out is that there's this sort of, there's two types of people with ADHD. There's the people who look at it as a curse, and then people who understand that it actually can be a gift. But to get there, you sort of have to set up these life rules for yourself that I've had to do. And what made me write the book was I realized that the life rules that I've set up are pretty much anyone can use them. You don't have to have ADHD. Anyone can use them and gain like a few hours of productivity or a few hours of extra time, as it were, in their day. I love when people say, "Oh, I don't have enough time to do that." I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure part of the planet you're on revolves around the sun the same speed that the part of the planet I'm on does. Right? And so, I don't have any time. It's kind of a lie. We all have the same 24 hours.
So one of the reasons I like the book is not just because you've come up with a good idea here and something that'll help people, but you did it because you found a way to not only work around a problem, but use that problem to your advantage. And this is something I tell some of my coworkers here. I've told my wife, you got to find a system that'll work for you. For example, I have a little bit of the ADHD, and I know that I can't stay focused all day long. So I don't set a rigid schedule for myself, Peter. I leave myself some playtime. So if something is normally going to take a half an hour, I schedule 45 minutes for it because I know there's going to be a transition.
Exactly. For me, the same thing happens. I'm on the computer all day. I'm creating content. I'm writing. I'm recording the podcast. And I know that when I need to get work done, I have to be in a certain zone. I call it my zone of focus. And the best way for me to be in the zone of focus, like to write my books, I get on an airplane.
I think this is hilarious. This story is so funny.
Faster Than Normal was written on a round trip to Asia and back, or 2 round trips to Asia and back. My previous book was actually written. I had 6 months to write it. With 2 weeks left, the publisher calls me like, "Hey, how's the book going?" I'm like, "Oh, it's going great. Yeah, almost done." I hadn't written a thing, and I hung up the phone, went to the United Airlines website, booked a round trip business class flight to Tokyo for the next day. Got on the plane with my laptop and my backpack and a jacket and my headphones, and I wrote chapters 1 through 5 on the flight to Tokyo. Landed, went through immigration, came back through immigration, went back to the lounge, got back on the same plane, same seat. 2 hours later, wrote chapters 6 through 10 on the flight home. Landed 31 hours later, smelled a little bit, but I had a book.
Wow.
And people say, "Oh my God, you're crazy. You spent $5,000 to go nowhere." I'm like, no, I spent $5,000 to write a book in 31 hours because that's how I do it.
By the way, last minute scheduling a flight, no luggage. I just know you're on a list too.
I'm sure I'm on a list.
You're on somebody's list.
I'm definitely on a list, no question about it. But and it's funny because when I got back, I went through immigration. The guy says, "All right, where are you coming from?" And I have the global entry card, right? So I use the machine. And then they take your that little receipt and they look at it. And the guy goes, "Oh, how long were you in Asia?" I'm like, "A couple of days, a little bit of time." And the guy looks at me straight, he looks at me, and he goes, "Okay." And he just sort of
45 minutes.
But I guess I didn't look threatening. But yeah, it was funny. But yeah, that's what I have to do. And the thing about it is, once you understand what works for you, right, just do that. And who cares what anyone else does?
Right. It's finding the system that works for you because we all have different triggers and benefits and negatives. We all have different things in our lives. We have different schedules. So just find the system that works for you.
Exactly. I mean, there are people who, I can't drink, right? I quit drinking a couple of years ago because when you have ADHD, you pretty much have 2 speeds. You have like namaste and I'll kill you. And there's really no middle ground there. So it's like leftover pizza. I don't have one drink. Right, leftover pizza is not real either. People order pizza, they have 2 slices, they put the rest in the fridge for like the next day. It's called leftover pizza. I've never experienced that. I order a pizza, I eat the pizza, and so you have to learn what triggers affect you, how to avoid them, what works for you and what doesn't. I have my favorite thing that I tell people. I have 2 sides in my closet. And they're labeled. One side says office and travel, and that's T-shirt and jeans. And the other side says speaking or TV, and that's a button-down shirt, jacket, and jeans. And that's it, right? My suits, my vests, my sweaters, they're in another closet, in another room. Because if I had to look at those every day to try to figure out what to wear. Oh, my God, that sweater. I remember that sweater. Laura gave me that sweater. I wonder how she's doing. I should look her up. It's 3 hours later. I'm naked in the living room on Facebook, and I haven't left the house.
But you've contacted Laura, or at least tried to.
Good old Laura. But, it's funny because I asked people on my Twitter account, at Peter Shankman, I go, tell me what you do to save time. And the number one answer is, hands down, is eliminate choice. Right? The less you can focus on stupid things to think about, the more your brain has the ability to think about good things. So the less I have to focus on what I have to wear or clothing or something. I mean, I sleep in my gym clothes. And then the decision, when I wake up in the morning, I'm in my gym clothes, the lights are on. The decision to go to the gym has pretty much been made for me.
See, and that's look at was it Einstein? I don't know if it's true or not, but they always said he wore the same thing every day, so he just eliminated choice, right?
Yeah, Zuckerberg and his hoodies. Obama has 3 suits that he wears. They eliminate choice because there are other things that are more important to think about.
And so, so let's look at it this way. Let's say, you know what though, Peter, I have to wear a variety for whatever the reason. My job requires that I can't wear I have to wear something different, and I have to have at least 30 outfits. Well, then hang 30 of them and just take the next one, right?
Exactly. Either do that, or what I've found fascinating is that you can mix and match. Right, so I don't wear the same thing. I mean, the jeans might be the same, but I have a nice collection of high quality T-shirts, and my blazers are very nice, and I just know that I can grab. It's like a Chinese restaurant menu, right? One from column A, one from column B, and I'm done.
But you set up that system, so the same thing is, even if you have to wear more things, you just set it up and say, grab from this, grab to that, right?
You get the stuff that is otherwise. Frustrating you, or that's otherwise confusing, you get that out of the way, right? I know I'm not going to wear that vest. It's a very nice vest that my ex-mother-in-law gave me, right? I'm never going to wear that vest, right? I'm not going to throw it out because, God, one day she comes over, I have to show her that I have the vest, but so I'll keep it in the other closet. I don't think about it.
It's really good. The book is Faster Than Normal. You can also follow Peter Shankman on Twitter. It's at Peter Shankman. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you did. Yep.
All right, so I'm going to tweet out a link to the book or whatever. Peter, love having you on. I think you got a great message, and hopefully we'll have you back in the near future on the Morning Blaze as well.
Anytime. Thanks so much.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you joining us. I'm going to get a quick break. We're still awaiting words from President Trump about the shooting in Las Vegas. We'll cut in, at least carry some of that when we come back on the Glenn Beck program.
Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck.
Let's go right now to the president speaking on the shooting in Las Vegas.
Large crowd at a country music concert in Las Vegas, Nevada. He brutally murdered more than 50 people and wounded hundreds more. It was an act of pure evil. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are working closely with local authorities to assist with the investigation, and they will provide updates as to the investigation and how it develops. I want to thank the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and all of the first responders for their courageous efforts and for helping to save the lives of so many. The speed with which they acted is miraculous and prevented further loss of life. To have found the shooter so quickly after the first shots were fired is something for which we will always be thankful and grateful. It shows what true professionalism is all about. Hundreds of our fellow citizens are now mourning the sudden loss of a loved one, a parent, a child, a brother or sister. We cannot fathom their pain. We cannot imagine their loss. To the families of the victims, we are praying for you, and we are here for you. And we ask God to help see you through this very dark period. Scripture teaches us the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. We seek comfort in those words, for we know that God lives in the hearts of those who grieve. To the wounded who are now recovering in hospitals. We are praying for your full and speedy recovery and pledge to you our support from this day forward. In memory of the fallen, I have directed that our great flag be flown at half-staff. I will be visiting Las Vegas on Wednesday to meet with law enforcement, first responders, and the families of the victims. In moments of tragedy and horror, America comes together as one, and it always has. We call upon the bonds that unite us, our faith, our family, and our shared values. We call upon the bonds of citizenship, the ties of community, and the comfort of our common humanity. Our unity cannot be shattered by evil. Our bonds cannot be broken by violence. And though we feel such great anger at the senseless murder of our fellow citizens, it is our love that defines us today and always will, forever. In times such as these, I know we are searching for some kind of meaning in the chaos, some kind of light in the darkness. The answers do not come easy. But we can take solace knowing that even the darkest space can be brightened by a single light, and even the most terrible despair can be illuminated by a single ray of hope. Melania and I are praying for every American who has been hurt, wounded, or lost the ones they love so dearly in this terrible, terrible attack. We pray for the entire nation to find unity and peace, and we pray for the day when evil is banished and the innocent are safe from hatred and from fear. May God bless the souls of the lives that are lost. May God give us the grace of healing, and may God provide the grieving families with strength to carry on. Thank you. God bless America.
The president speaking on the tragedy that unfolded last night in Las Vegas. We'll have more on that, as well as some other news stories coming up on the Glenn Beck program.
Glenn Beck. Love. Courage. Truth. Glenn Beck.
Doc Thompson in for Glenn. Thanks so much for joining us. Tragedy unfolding late last night in Las Vegas. If you haven't heard yet, I'll give you a quick update on the details, and we'll get back to some of your calls. We'll also cover a little bit more of the daily news in just a few minutes as well. But if you want to join the program, best way to do it is 888-727-BECK. That's 888-727-BECK. You can also join us on Twitter. We use the hashtag What I Learned Today, or you can just tweet at Doc Thompson Show, at Real Chris Cruz, and that's Chris with a K, Cruz with a C, or at Cal79, that's KL79, KL79, and they're part of the morning crew on the Blaze Radio Network with me. If you want details on that, it's at theblazeradio.com or theblazeradio.com. So we've got new information on the suspect, Stephen Paddock. Before we get to that, though, give you the details. Now, as it stands, 50 people dead and over 400 people injured in a shooting last night at the Mandalay Bay Hotel. 64-year-old Stephen Paddock had a room on the 32nd floor. New information says that he's been staying there since September 28th. Yes. So that would have been, is that right, Chris? September 28th?
Yes, September 28th. That's when.
So that was last Thursday.
That's when he checked into the hotel.
So he would have stayed Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and then last night.
Which makes sense if you're kind of casing the area, because the event started on Friday, I believe. It was a weekend event.
3-day music fest, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So that kind of plays out on the mindset of when you case in an area, you know, you get there before and then you plan it out.
Interesting, though, he waited until Sunday night.
That's one of the things what we're talking about off air. It's like, what took him so long? Because you are from Vegas. Well, you lived in Vegas.
A couple years, yeah.
And then you say that Saturday to Sunday night, that's kind of like a very...
I mean, Sunday night's busy, too. Vegas is always busy. I mean, they say Vegas 24 hours, never sleeps. It takes a nap now and then in the in the wee hours of the morning. But still, Saturday night is still going to be busier than Sunday night. And this was pretty late Sunday. Obviously, he was still looking at those thousands of people. 40,000, they say, may have been at the concert. That's still a pretty big target. And he also shot people on the street, across the street, down in front as well. But had the room since Thursday night. They also have details now on some of his past. They say this is really interesting. They say he was known to law enforcement.
Again, it goes back to
known?
What does that mean?
Okay, now they said he had a criminal record going back to when he lived in San Francisco.
Okay.
But I mean, that could be anything.
Could be
It could be a simple assault. You got into a bar fight. It could be something like that. Criminal usually doesn't mean speeding, but it could be something less serious. But known to law enforcement almost sounds like they're watching him.
Yeah, and they also said this with the Pulse shooting suspect.
Yeah, they say a lot of those.
They were like, "Oh, he was in our radar." So,
right. They say if it's terrorism or somebody they suspect that could be a terrorist, eventually they say known to law enforcement.
Exactly.
We were watching him. Or in other words, you're likely to do something bad. Right? I mean,
yeah.
Did he actually get radicalized by ISIS?
Now it kind of we're connecting the dots here on air. It's like ISIS says we claim responsibility. He's been turned in our side for like months ago. Now you have this saying that he was known by the law enforcement. Then that also plays out to the scenario. I'll tell you this in the morning during our show was that Trump even said is that our responders, they got there nice and quickly. We were able to get there quickly. But then also in the back of my mind it says, do they get there quickly because he was already known that he was there?
No, I think it's just because, you're firing an automatic weapon in a hotel room. I mean, if people walk across the floor too loudly in a hotel room, I'm like, what the heck's going on next door, right? An automatic weapon, it's going to be incredibly loud. People 3-4 floors down said it sounded like a jackhammer.
Oh, wow.
So that makes a lot of sense. So you're going to know if you're at the front desk or security at the hotel within minutes that something is going on like that, right? But then hotel security is not going to break in. I think they said he shot roughly 10 to 15 minutes.
Yes.
That sounds about right. It's going to take a couple minutes before the front desk is notified. Wait a minute, what's going on? Somebody's actually shooting outside. Law enforcement has to get there. They have to make sure they get to spot. They have to get SWAT too.
Yeah.
Because you got to make sure what you're doing is smart when you break in to get the guy, when you bust in, right?
Yep. And then we heard the audio from the SWAT team, going in from dispatch to the door, so we know that we're there.
Also, they said he had previously lived in San Francisco, Melbourne, Florida, Reno, Nevada, and Mesquite, Texas.
And then we also know that his brother lives in Orlando, Florida.
Okay, anybody who moves this much is shady. Okay, wait a minute, I've moved even more than that. Anybody that's not in broadcasting and moves this much is shady. It just comes with the territory when you're a broadcaster. Yeah. They said, so there was a woman that they were looking for. They now have in custody, Mary Lou Danley. And for a few hours this morning, they couldn't find her. They just knew she was somehow related and acquainted with this guy. They finally took her into custody. They're questioning her now. They now say that she shared a residence with him. Mm. I don't know what the status of their relationship was or how much she knew. But a woman on the street being interviewed, and I think we have the audio of this, claimed that this woman stopped her and told her some bad stuff's coming down, right?
That a woman, we don't know if it was Mary Lou, but a woman stopped her and said, hey, you're all about to die.
Okay, we have the audio. Here we go. This is a woman being interviewed on the street in Las Vegas.
And were you thinking, oh my gosh, this woman told us that before we left?
Yeah, I thought it had a positive correlation to it. Like, obviously, she was telling us that either to tell us to warn us or to tell us that we were all going to die, and she was part of it. So,
okay,
her and her boyfriend were both Hispanic. They were probably about shorter 5-footers, probably about 5'5", 5'6". They just look like everyday people. Just
Can you tell us anything more about them, what they look like? Why were they escorted out? Were they escorted out because you were feeling uncomfortable about what they said?
Yes, because she had been messing with the lady in front of her and telling her that she was going to die, that we were all going to die. So they escorted her out to make her stop messing around with all the other people in front of them, but none of us knew that it was going to be serious.
Okay, that's really weird.
Dude.
Well, I mean, okay, I've been on the street where you get street preachers that seems a little crazy. People crying. I mean, we had just a couple weeks ago, somebody claimed the world was going to end on Saturday, remember?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So these people are out there. I'm sure people have said crazy things on the street. But right before this,
45 minutes before the first shooting, started to happen.
So this Mary Lou Danley, based on the picture, did she look Hispanic?
She does.
She does kind of look Hispanic.
But then again, the 65-year-old man or whatever
he's a white guy.
He's a white guy, so you can't confuse them.
She's not Hispanic, guys. She's more like Filipino.
Yeah,
see, I thought she was a little more Asian, but this woman may have confused.
Well, yeah, we all look alike, As long as you're brown, you all look alike.
Well, sure.
Hey, you said it.
Western Asia starts looking a little more Middle Eastern, a little darker, a little less traditional Asian. Mm-hmm. So it could be any number of races. But the one thing she wouldn't likely confuse is the Hispanic man.
Yes.
So if it was this Mary Lou Danley, who's the Hispanic man with her? Are they culpable in this? If it wasn't her, but they knew about the attack, how do they know about the attack?
A lot of questions now being raised because of that one interview.
Okay, this is getting really strange here. An FBI source, now granted this is a source, I only got it from one source, one news site, and not your traditional news sites, said that this FBI source told them, again, take it at this point until it's confirmed more, with a grain of salt. Could be true, looking like it. We haven't confirmed beyond this. That this Stephen Paddock had radical leanings when it came to politics.
What does that mean? You could take that either way. You could take that he's radicalized and, full-blown right wing. Well, it could get radicalized to left wing.
Left wing. Well, and what do they mean radical leanings? I mean, by many, I have radical leanings.
Well, true.
Do I have radical leanings?
Well, you did kind of threaten a sitting president.
That was a long time ago, and we're not supposed to bring that up anymore.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Now I got to tell the story. I'll tell it tomorrow morning on the Blaze Radio. I mean, I bet you there's a lot of people out there that would look and go, that Doc Thompson radical leanings.
Well, anything could be taken as radical. I'm going to speak against Trump. I'm going to hold his bloody head.
That's definitely radical.
That's radical.
Oh, yeah. She meant it as a joke, but it's still radical.
It's still radical.
All right, so I guess that's still kind of subjective.
And you got the neo-Nazis, too, the white supremacists.
Okay, they're definitely radical.
There's radical. So
there's another phrase for that. Bat crap crazy. And there's another phrase for that I can't say on the air. Starts with an F, ends with razy. Dirtbags. There's all kinds of names for that. This guy... It'll be interesting to see. They say they hopefully will have some additional information on this stuff by this afternoon.
A lot of people are coming against us, standing against, for example, you have people saying silence is not enough. You got the gun violence.
Okay. So here we are. It has not even been 12 hours, 10, 11 hours since the shooting. And former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton has now chimed in. Is this via Twitter?
This is via Twitter, yes. She came out and said, our grief isn't enough. We can and must put politics aside, stand up to the NRA, and work together to try to stop this from happening again.
Okay, earlier I started off this program saying we have to stop politicizing stuff. Left, right, stop politicizing tragedy. And how do you know? There's a couple telltale signs. When people start making it a political issue or discussing who's to blame immediately after a tragedy, again, we're still trying to figure out if this guy truly acted alone. We don't know much about his background. We just found out where he has lived within the last 20 minutes, half hour. So still incredibly early for that. Number 2, she passed blame and judgment on who? Not just guns, but the NRA, which is also a political issue because she knows the NRA funds people on the right. And then finally, is she telling all of the facts? No, she absolutely is not. Hillary Clinton, you, my friend, are a dirtbag. As if we didn't know that already. A dirtbag for this.
There's a little bit more. She goes and says...
Wait, there's more?
Yeah, she tweeted this. She tweeted a tweet. It took her 3 tweets to tweet out her whole point of view. But she goes and says the crowd fled.
Was she using the 280?
No, I think she didn't get the 280.
She's still on the 140?
She's still 140.
So it takes 3 of them. Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah. She goes, the crowd fled at the sound of gunshots, period. Imagine the death if the shooter had a silencer, which the NRA wants to make easier to get. Doc, imagine that. A silencer. Imagine that.
Okay, hold on. Again, I'm not making this political. I'm correcting some information here. She is not giving you all of the information. She is speaking squarely out of her rectum there. Anyone ever used a silencer?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the movies. You just hear. Doop,
no,
doop,
it's
doop,
not.
Doop. That's all. No.
No.
That's all it is, right?
No.
It's a little bit louder than that?
Yeah, you can still hear some
of course. It's actually still pretty loud. It's not nearly as loud as it would be. A silencer was not going to stop people from being injured,
no.
or would cause more people to be injured.
Cause more chaos. Yes.
How would it cause more people? Still, the people in the room next door would have heard it.
Yes.
Would they have gotten there later? Probably not. Would people have gotten to the ground sooner? No. You would have still heard it. And by the way, you're still going to see this the Jumbotron they have there stop working because it was hit.
Yeah.
They would have seen people dying.
Yeah.
Wow.
But silencers, you know, we must.
By the way, you know, when you kill someone with a knife in a movie, they make no sound.
Oh.
So you just and they just that one's perfectly silent, and the silencer just goes right. That's all it sounds.
Sounds like Star Wars.
Yeah, Hillary's getting all of her information from movies, apparently. What a dirtbag. You're not helping. And if you're not helping, you're hurting in this scenario. Because it makes everybody else that's opposed to the things you're saying politically, even if there's a nugget of truth in what you're saying, instantly run to the other direction. All right, I'm going to get a break in, then we'll pick some of your calls coming up. Still have some other news stories to get to this morning. It's Doc Thompson pinch hitting for Glenn Beck.
Glenn Beck.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-359-4704. That's 1-800-359-4704.
Glenn Beck.
Okay, we have new information on the shooter at the Mandalay Bay Hotel last night in Las Vegas. In fact, we've now heard from his brother. Is this the brother in Orlando, Florida?
Yes, this is the brother in Orlando, Florida. He came out and gave some words to Fox News.
All right, we have a clip of this and then some new information as well. Here it is.
He called his mother.
Ever any indication at all that this would...
Nothing. That we're lost. I don't understand. There's no anything.
Interesting.
Eric Paddock, whatever you said that.
Eric Paddock.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously you're upset your sibling has died. We often think of these shooters as being monsters, so your sibling... And we've seen in the past where some siblings or relatives are like, okay, that guy was nuts, crazy. You know, I loved him, but, you know, they're not as upset because obviously they're crazy. Mm-hmm. He said no indicator here. No. So, Imagine your sibling that you think is normal all of a sudden involved in something like this.
He's in Orlando, Florida. His brother is.
He's not seeing him every day.
Exactly. So we don't know that.
So this information came out that supposedly, did his brother say this?
So according to NBC national correspondent Peter Alexander, he says that Stephen Paddock's brother says their father was also a wanted criminal and was on the FBI's most wanted list for bank robbery.
He was a bank robber, his father was?
I guess.
Okay, that's really odd and interesting. Let's go to some calls now. Let's go to line 18. Don in Minnesota, thanks for holding. You're on the Glenn Beck program.
Yeah, good morning, Doc. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for calling.
First of all, my prayers are with the people that were dead and their family and their loved ones, and the people that are hurt in the hospitals. Hopefully, they will get better quick. Having said that, I was there. I'm frequently there in Las Vegas for conferences and stuff. I was there a month ago. Seems there are cameras everywhere, but the security is very lax. I'm still trying to figure out how did this guy get all that firepower into the hotel. That's my thing. And the other, in all of this, what we're missing in all of this is that we have forsaken our belief in a higher being as a society. I was really impressed when Trump referenced God 3 times in his,
in his comments.
I hope everybody is getting the message. As far I read a lot. I guess you guys a guy named Alexis de Tocqueville, right? When he said that the most fascinating thing about this country is freedom of religion, and we are losing it. We are losing it in our institutions. There is no fear of a higher being, and everybody says I am it and nobody else. And the last point I want to make is he is not a shooter. He's a murderer, somebody that practices target shooting, in a safe area. He's a shooter. I don't know that you can call him a shooter.
Yep. You know what, Don? You're absolutely right. Thank you, Don from Minnesota. Appreciate you calling this morning. You're right. He's a murderer. We say shooter. We get these terms because they're easy. Maybe it's a little laziness on our part, but you're right. The guy is a mass murderer at this point. Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe we have lost our perspective, and I think we've certainly lost our humility when it comes to our higher power. We'll discuss a little bit more of that. Also have to touch on what happened in Puerto Rico. You want to talk about being politicized? Oh, my gosh, was that been politicized all weekend long? We'll get to that and more of your calls. 888-727-BECK. It's Doc Thompson in for Glenn today.
Glenn Beck. You're listening to the Glenn Beck program.
Hey there, it's Doc Thompson in for Glenn today. Thanks so much for joining us. If you want to join the program, 888-727-BECK. I do have a couple more calls to get to on what happened in Las Vegas. Let's go to North Carolina. I think it's Phil. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning, sir.
I have some possible insight into what type of weapon was used.
Okay.
It's the cadence of the weapon and the sounds of the rounds, the high-pitched sound of the rounds. It sounds like it's an M249 saw, which is a belt-fed weapon. Fires approximately 600 to 900 rounds a minute, depending on what kind of gasket setting you have it on.
I was thinking the same thing too, because if I don't know if you ever fired one, I did. Did it really easily. That's the one that people saw the machine gun, but that's like the baby version of it. Okay. And the barrel. I was thinking also all those rounds going by it, the barrel can get hot, but it won't get as hot as a 240 Bravo. And you could change it up pretty quickly. And it's actually easily handleable for a one man. Actually, if he has to switch barrels, he can do that. But for that little weapon, it's not little, but compared to the 240 Bravo, you can actually switch back and forth and actually have the capability to fire that many rounds without stopping.
That's absolutely right. And that lull, some of the audio that some of the witnesses explained, the lull and fire of about approximately 30 to 45 seconds, that's about the amount of time someone who's fairly proficient with a weapon, that's about the amount of time it's going to take to change that barrel and slap in a new belt fed, a new belt.
Interesting.
So it sounds a lot like a M249 saw. It's fairly lightweight, easy to carry.
All right, Phil. Thank you so much for the call. Really appreciate it. And how many weapons did he have? He had 8 long guns?
No. According to reports are coming out, he had 10 long rifles on his bed.
Okay, so if he had some sort of, is that belt fed is what he's talking about? It really sounded like it was going to be
the
rounds.
Yeah.
Okay. it always, I mean, what do you think you're going to do with all those other weapons?
Well, that's one thing too, is when you,
I mean, I guess crazy's crazy.
When you
but,
operate in those kind of, especially the 249 that he said, that's very easily, it has a little compartment on top. You open, you close back up, and it has a little carrier for the rounds.
Okay.
And it's really easily to use if you know how to use it. And changing the barrels, for example, if you're having a 240 Bravo, which one is the one that I use in the military, to change the barrel, that's kind of like a two-man job. You have to unlock it, take it out, and
this way one person could do it.
The 249 is a one person. That's just one-handed.
Let's go to Tennessee now, line 18. We've got Julie. How are you? Welcome to the Glenn Beck program, Julie.
Yeah, hi, guys. First of all, well, of course, you don't expect to wake up to this tragic news, so my thoughts and prayers are sent to everyone in Las Vegas that, that were shot and that are suffering, family and everything. And the whole the politics that are coming into it make me sick. My husband and I are lifetime members of the NRA, so we're used to taking these sort of hits. And it's getting out of hand with that. It's always some excuse, some reason to vilify those of us who are pro Second Amendment and that sort of thing. And it could have been it could have been a car, and that doesn't make it any easier. It was just a matter in which he did this horrible deed. So that being said, I just feel really sick to my stomach about it right now.
Well,
you guys are so funny, and today I'm not feeling funny.
Yeah, and I understand. We usually lead with humor, but this is one of those. It's kind of difficult too. Julie, how do you feel as a Second Amendment supporter, like you said, and this stuff gets politicized? How likely are you, when this is being politicized, to be willing to sit down and have a reasonable conversation about things like mental illness? Because I am not. And that's part of the tragedy when people politicize something, certainly so quickly, is that you automatically go to your corner and come out and you start fighting that political battle.
Well, you mean when people start saying, well, if someone
right.
You need to go after mental illness?
Yeah.
Well, that, I believe when they start saying that becomes an arbitrary situation, because one man's crazy is another man's sane.
Well, right, but you see what I'm saying though about having a conversation about it. It's like we all, doesn't matter if you're conservative, libertarian, liberal, you automatically put your guard up and you're not willing to discuss things, even reasonable things, once you know that you're in that arena.
Exactly, and when you do, I'm going to tell you, we don't identify with the conservative. We're more libertarian, like you are, and when we try to talk to people who tend to be on the other side of libertarian to the left, right now we've got a friend from church, and she's an older lady, and she's right now ranting and raving it's Trump's fault. I mean, that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how? And so we deal with these things every day, and you almost have to pick. It's like you have to pick and choose your subject matter. We walk on eggshells around so many people, and we're also hunters. And people are like, oh my God, you're hunters, but then they complain because deer hit their cars. Well, if there weren't hunters, there'd be more deer, and it's just a never-ending battle to explain to them that we're also conservationists because we hunt, and it gets to the point where it's insane. And this man was obviously to explain it's not about the gun, it's about his actions.
Julie, thank you so much for the comments this morning. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. I have one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is for Chris. I was trying to pass this along. Hi, Chris. I sent something on Doc's Facebook fan page. Mm-hmm. It's a police audio link, and it's on his page in a message from.
Is that about the Puerto Rican police officer that called in? Yeah, we're probably going to talk about that tomorrow. Yeah.
We'll cover it on our show in the morning, Blaze.
Did you get that message from me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, because I don't speak Spanish. So I was like,
it's okay. Chris doesn't speak English, so it works great.
Good. All right. Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to have you,
We'll check it out, Julie. We'll check it out. And we'll get to it tomorrow morning on the TheBlaze.com, TheBlazeRadio.com, The Morning Blaze. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. I do have to share one bit of breaking news from this tragic story out of Las Vegas. The death toll now is at least 58. And the number injured, we're seeing 500 injured.
Yeah, 500. Think about that. And then, yes, 500 injured. That could be from a sprained
ankle. You're going to get some
shrapnel,
of that.
To a bullet. Yeah.
But I guarantee half of those are not just sprained ankles, and even at 10% being life-threatening injuries, that's 50.
40,000 people were at attending this event.
And another 5,000 or a couple thousand walking the streets around down there in and out of the hotels.
When I started hearing the numbers, and the sheriff department just came out and gave these new numbers, I'm like, there has to be more numbers. I'm not saying that, I'm not wishing upon that, but there's
you just know it's going to be low.
The type of weapon that was used from what we heard, the sound, all those people compacted there in one area, there's going to be more. And then those injuries, are those life-threatening injuries that are going to turn into death? We don't know that.
Well, and like I said, even if it's only 10% of that 500 injured is critical or serious condition, that's another 50. And this number 58 of 58 dead that we're getting now may have been only 50 truly an hour ago. And then, it could be 8 people who have just died. It seems unlikely that they would have miscounted this far along. It seems more likely that a couple have succumbed to those injuries. Since Julie brought up Puerto Rico, we do have to touch on that. That's probably one of the other top stories over the weekend that was being covered and should have been covered. This ridiculous feud between the mayor of San Juan and President Trump is just that, ridiculous. And I'm putting most of this at the feet of the mayor of San Juan. And that is not politicizing it. It's just true. If you look at the way the federal government has handled Puerto Rico, remember, Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory and all Puerto Ricans are American citizens. If they move to the mainland, they can even run for president. They can be a senator. They can do whatever. They are Americans. So it is within the scope of the federal government to take care of, emergency aid, send FEMA, these type of things. They are American citizens. What the president did was proper, was reasonable, was successful, right? I mean, he did what what did he do? Opened up emergency aid.
Yep.
Sent FEMA. He sent the military down to help National Guard, and even the one Navy trauma ship.
Oh, yeah.
The largest mobile trauma vehicle in the world. And he sent that. He did it all in a timely fashion.
One of the things that bothers me of this entire thing is the mayor of San Juan.
Let me ask you this, though. And Chris's family is in Puerto Rico. He grew up in Puerto Rico, moved to Florida when he was a young man. Is that when you moved? When you moved?
I moved to the United States right after 9/11.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were a kid when you moved. You moved to Florida. Based on what you've seen, and you followed this pretty closely this weekend because of your family, is there any significant gap or significant failure coming from the White House on this?
No.
And again, this is coming from somebody who did not vote for Donald Trump. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton either. I just vote on track record. Like some of what Trump's done, not. So I'm not in the tank for him. And neither is Chris. Basically same scenario.
Same scenario, yep.
Okay. Any significant, obvious, outright failure?
No. I honestly haven't seen anything that a non-Trump president could and can do to the island of Puerto Rico.
Did he do anything significantly more or less than he did for Florida or Texas?
No, I don't see it.
I don't see any.
Everything got activated. One of the things was that act, the Jones Act.
He actually maybe did a little bit more because they had to act the Jones Act.
A lot of people say, he needs to lift that. Well, here's the thing. He cannot lift the Jones Act until the governor of Puerto Rico says we need the Jones Act to be lifted. Then Trump takes it.
And that's temporarily.
And it's only temporary. I think he said for 10 days. So that's one of the things. And by the way, I did not know we had a Jones Act. We had to research it right before, Friday when this whole thing started blowing up. So one of the things that I've seen is so far, I've seen the same reaction, but you also have to think about it too, is Puerto Rico is an island. And people that are not aware of Puerto Rico, where I lived, I call it, the hillbillies of Puerto Rico. Because in order for me to go to civilization, like let's say to the city of Dallas, there's one bridge from my house to the city of Dallas, if you want to put it in perspective like that. That one bridge that connects where I'm from, Kubui, to the closest city is gone. And that happened around the other towns in Puerto Rico. So people saying, oh, they're not getting aid. No, that's not the issue. The issue is the rivers are still overflowing. What are they going to do? Are they going to harm themselves?
How are they getting this stuff there? The logistics are a nightmare.
Exactly. And then are they going to hurt themselves just to get aid? No, they're waiting, assessing the situation. One of the things about this idiot from San Juan, the mayor, is that she's out there with a shirt that says, help us, we are dying, and a cap that says SOS. Now, Doc, my island has no power.
No power.
Has no communication.
Right. Can't do
no
anything.
Internet.
No.
No other thing. How the hell did she get a shirt that says, help us, we're dying?
She probably has an old T-shirt printing device that's hand crank.
Yeah, because I have many boxes that contain that.
It probably dates back to the 1700s.
Yeah.
The hand crank T-shirt and hat logo embroidering device.
And then come to find out, she's a Democrat mayor. She went to Boston.
She went to University of Boston, I think, or Boston University. She's a leftist. This is who she is. Now, there have been some failures from her administration. Yes. Absolutely. So here we are once again, just like Hillary and so many other people, Piers Morgan, making this Las Vegas tragedy political. That's what she's doing here. And why is she doing it? To promote her party and to further her own career. She's hoping to be the darling of people on the left and the Democrats because she stood up to that Trump, that evil Trump, and because she dislikes Trump in general anyway. Take a break, back with more on this, the Glenn Beck program.
Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck.
All right, the FBI is now saying the Las Vegas shooter, Stephen Paddock, the murderer of now 58 people, the guy who's injured another 500, those are the official numbers, 58 and 500. I think it might be 515 even.
Yeah, I saw those numbers
injured,
go up, yeah.
Has no connection to international terrorism.
Nope.
That's their official word so far, so...
that's good.
Yeah, I guess it would have been more interesting.
But hey, hold on. We have a Lady Gaga tweeting out.
Oh, no. What are you doing?
No, this is good. No, this is good. I promise this is good. She says,
okay.
This is terrorism, plain and simple. Okay. Terror bears no race, gender, or religion.
Okay, good.
Right, Democrats and Republicans, please unite now on gun control.
Okay, you son of a... What did you... Come on.
Come on, Doc. She says we must unite.
I was with her. I hear Lady Gaga, okay, it's going to be nutty because she's a performer. It's going to be leftist. And I was like, okay. But you're right. Unite, terrorism doesn't know that.
Yeah.
It usually has some sort of political ideology to it. But you're right. Anybody can, and they target all kinds. You're right. They just... And then you have to do that.
She has to close this with we must unite against gun control.
We'll have more on this tomorrow morning on the Morning Blaze. Don't forget to check us out. Just go to the blazeradio.com. Please follow me on Twitter. It's at Doc Thompson Show, at Real Chris Cruz, and at Cal79. That's KL79. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Until then, have as good a day as possible. Let's try to start prioritizing and pray for Vegas.
Glenn Beck.